Hello everybody, this is Terry Jeanette with Be Creative. Come along with me as I go through my china cabinet that's filled with a lot of really old stuff. I've already cleaned out these other shelves from right here, from here down. On both of them are items that I collected through my what little bit of travel I've done, mostly cruises. I like to collect Christmas ornaments and these little things from Disney when I've gone. We used to go to Disney all the time growing up because we only lived about an hour away, but I don't go there so much anymore. It's just gotten too expensive. But here's some more Christmas ornaments. And just little dust collectors. From my places I've gone. Always like to pick up a Christmas ornament from different places. This right here, I'm not for sure if I'm supposed to have it or not, but my son went to Iceland and brought me some black sand. That was cool. I think we found out later on after he got back he wasn't supposed to do that. But I'm not really for sure that's true. That was just kind of a hearsay thing. So, aren't these cool? They came from the Bahamas. And I actually watched this guy work. So this wasn't something that somebody bought from China and brought it over to sell. He was actually making those. In fact, I can't remember which one. I think it was this one. He was making it and I had to come back and get it. Same with this thing. I watched this guy make that. I was a little nervous to take it, but he blew it dry for me and it came out just fine. I prefer getting things that the locals make. I have all of this that, believe it or not, was in there. I don't think it's all going back. Believe it or not, everything has a special meaning. And I think what I'm going to do is organize it into the different areas. And then from there, I will put it back or not. So here are my flowers from my wedding and my wedding cake topper that's actually a music box, and some of the decorations I had when we got married over 40 years ago. So back then, as is still now, a couple of my favorite colors were purple and yellow, and I really liked yellow, especially daisies. They were just really a happy color. In fact, they painted her little ribbon right here and the flowers to match the colors I wanted. I actually got tucked out of using the yellow. There's a little bit of yellow because, you know, flowers do have yellow in them, a lot of them, but I wound up with just lavender and white, which was really pretty, but you know, you need to stick with what you like. And if nobody else likes it, that's too bad because you like it. And I think purple and yellow look good with each other anyway. I forgot to put the wreath back that I wore. I didn't have a veil and I didn't wear a big floppy hat. I was just very simple when I got married. I had a really pretty lace dress and a wreath on the top of my head. So I need to put that back up there too. And here's my dress. Not wearing the wreath because it was a very windy day. There. So the story behind these, my son, he was going to preschool and he came home for Mother's Day gift where they had made these hands and they framed them, and I just thought those were the coolest things. So I've got 4 kids. You knew I had to have all of my children do one of these. So I asked the guy who came in and helped if I could do that. And he said, sure. And he brought the stuff to me, didn't charge me anything. I kept saying, you sure, you sure? And he said, yeah, and I have enough for you to do both their hands. So my oldest son, and then my daughter, and then my next son, and my next son. And I've got them all dated. And so I framed these, and let me show you what I did with the other. I made this. I absolutely love this. Now, at the time, the house we were living in, I measured the area behind the stove, and so this hung behind there as a backsplash. Since that house, we've never lived any other place where this fit. Right now, I'm using it as the top of this thing because the top of this trunk is just really damaged a lot, so I just have it there. But what I did is I just took some, I went to a place like Lowe's and got a bunch of tile and broke it up and just made this thing. Someday I will be giving these away to my children that they belong to. All right, down here I've added things that are of nature for the most part. A lot of shells I found. I think most of these came from Sanibel Island many years ago when our family used to go there. And I found these on the beach. There's some type of fossil. Not really for sure. If you know what any of this stuff is that I don't know, let me know. Of course, these are sand dollars I found on the beach. My uncle, he painted this rock. Isn't it pretty? And I got this a long time ago when I was a kid. I thought it was really funny. It's my rock concert. And somebody made this. It's a pet rock. Now these, again, I think this is a geode. I've been tempted to open it up, but just haven't got the guts to do it. And I thought these are really cool. I found these in the creek close to our property in Tennessee. Aren't they cool? And I've added a few little old toys. This was mine. I believe this came on a box of chocolates that my dad gave me, if I'm not mistaken. My sister has one too that's white. And then these were McDonald's Happy Meal toys. I remember my daughter, she just loved this doll. And one time she came up and gave me a couple of them and said, Mom, this just reminds me of you. I think this probably is what you look like as a teenager. And I'm like, well, maybe pretty close, I don't know. Here we have some really old things. My sisters and my mom and I made a bunch of Christmas ornaments one year, little stuffed animals. And these, both my sister and me, these are the ornaments we used to take to school whenever we would decorate the tree and, you know, everybody would bring an ornament. These were the ornaments that we brought. I probably need to give that to my sister. These little guys were toys that my youngest son absolutely loved. He loved little men. They would just fit in his hand and he could, you know what little boys do, whatever. These two right here though, when my third child had just turned 4, he had a really major eye infection and wound up in the hospital for a week and had to have his eye drained. It was really kind of scary. He's okay now. His eyes are fine. I mean, he wears glasses, but that's not because of that. But anyway, when we were in the waiting room before entering the hospital, my son had found these. I think another little boy had left him. We asked at the front desk and they're like, oh, we don't know. So we cleaned them up, and I'll have to say these were his very favorite toys. And it was really nice for him to have something to play with while we waited for many hours and many days in the hospital. All right. As I'm looking at these when I'm editing, I noticed I don't have them in order. This was the hand for preschool, so I need to switch this over here because that's my oldest son. He was a little bit older. Usually my oldest son, his favorite color is green, and so I was just looking at the colors. Let me switch them. Much better. Oldest son, daughter, the next one, my third child, son, and my youngest son. There's some just mismatched stuff. They were actually my grandmother's. Aren't these pretty? But I'm gonna put these with my dishes. I don't know what I'm gonna do with these. Whoops. Hopefully not break them. We've got little cream and sugar bowls. Here's some more odds and ends from my grandmother. Isn't that pretty? And I think these will go back in there. They won't take up much room. And I really like them a lot. And here's a couple of other little jars. I mean, I don't see little pink things like this much. This kind of reminds me of a genie bottle. I love these. They did come from my grandmother. So a friend of mine was going through some of her stuff, and she has a ton of Italian dishes and, you know, little stuff like this. And since she knew that I learned not long ago that I have quite a bit of Italian heritage that I had no idea about. It was on my dad's father's side. We didn't know anything about his father, but through DNA we found out that his father was a Fischino, and he came over from Italy as a child. And she's like, you have to have these. So, because these are all supposedly Italian. So even though this bottle isn't nature, I actually found it, well, I didn't. My husband found it along with some other really cool bottles, old bottles, in the creek where these rocks were found. So I'll put it there. Let me address this shelf. My sister gave my other sister and I one of these a couple of years ago for Christmas. It represents the van, the Volkswagen van that our family drove all over the place. We grew up with that van. We were like hippies, I guess. We even took a 6-week trip across the country pulling a pop-up camper in the 70s. These are dolls that I played with, along with this thing. This was Greta Grape. Do y'all recognize her? Did you play with any of these little, I forgot what they called them. Little kittles. I think that's what they were called. And then this guy back here, the little worm, I painted that. I took a ceramics class for summer camp one time. This horse is very old. When I was about 3 years old, we were living in California, and we went to visit one of my cousins, and he was probably about 12, I think, their son. And I love horses. I've always loved horses. I don't have any. I've never had a horse. I've had friends that have had horses, but I've never owned a horse. But he had this along with some other horses like this, and I played with it the whole time, and he gave it to me, and I've kept it ever since. These little guys, I'll talk about them in a little bit. Do you recognize where they came from? This is me when I was about 4. I was 4. I think we were out in California, I think. Anyway, there's a big picture just exactly like this hanging in my mom and dad's house. And when my daughter saw it, she's like, oh, is that my mom when she was in Ashley? That's my daughter's name. And then this is an old cup that came from Avon, I believe. So I mentioned that I was going to talk about all these little guys back here, but this video is getting a little bit long. So you know what? That'll make a really cool video in the future. So stay tuned. In the meantime, if you recognize them, let me know down in the comments section below. Some other things I do want to put in there that are definite collector items are these mishmash of space stuff. My dad, he was a NASA engineer. We moved down to Florida in 1967 so he could work on the Apollo program. Yes, I do remember Apollo 11. I was actually there at site when the rocket went up. And I remember that quite clearly. I was about 10 years old, or getting ready to be 10. These are all more NASA pins.
And then these, does anybody know what these are? They're called transistor radios. And these radios, they accompanied me and my sisters and my friends to the beach quite often. This is how we listened to music when I was a teenager. So I put all those space pins and stuff in these little boxes that I made a while back ago. And I still have quite a bit of things. I'm not for sure what I'm going to do with, but they're not going back in the cabinet.
I love the way the cabinet is. It's not cram-packed full of a bunch of what look like garbage, junk. Now you can actually look in there and see what's in there. And I do know when we have company, they like to come in here and kind of look at some of the things, and they're great conversation pieces. So thanks for joining me today as I went through my little cabinet here and cleaned things out. Do you have collectible items that you keep in a very special place? Let me know down in the comment section below if you do and what that is. And thanks for joining me. Y'all have a great day. This is Terry Jeanette with Be Creative, signing out for now. Bye-bye.